Hi! Yo. Episode 92 of Levels Plus Whenever. And I have opinions on Silent Hill 2's remake that I just have to express today. So we're going to do that after the pickups portion, because I've got some Famicom carts for Femtendo. So we'll roll through those first, and then we're going to just dive into what I think about all this modern Silent Hill stuff. So to kick off, we've got Sayuki World. This is the first one. This was not localized. The sequel was. I'll refrain from getting into that because I'll be getting that game as well down the road. This is Ripple Island by Sunsoft. It's an adventure game. And this is Shin Senden by Irem. Grand Master, an RPG by Very. I don't think any of their games ever got localized. This is Jumpin' Kid Jack to Mame no Kimonogatari. Based on Jack and the Beanstalk. Mad City. This is one of the few games that was localized. This is The Adventures of Bayou Billy here. And I got Barcode World from Sunsoft. Megami Tensei 2 Digital Devil Story. That one's been a tricky one to get. Fudo Mayo Oden. This was localized as Demon Sword, but it's a pretty different game. And then last but not least is Warriors Woods. Those are 10 more, and I'll probably be keeping a good chunk of them, which is always nice. But yeah, it was thanks to a friend who was collecting some DS games that I happen to have that basically allowed me to buy those. So, thank you, friend. Konami, what are you doing? What are you doing with Silent Hill? I genuinely asked that question because what you presented yesterday at the State of Play, my brain just cannot understand what you're doing with Silent Hill 2's remake. And I feel like it's chasing something it shouldn't be. So let's rewind. Warning, talking about Silent Hill 2 and in its entirety. So I will be talking about what happens and key plot points, because it's relevant to the trailer that was shown yesterday. Okay? So if you don't want to watch that, you probably should just walk away from the video so you don't have that experience ruined for you. We'll just stick a little Flavia video here, just to make sure that people are aware that's the line that's being drawn here. And then when that's over, we'll actually get into it. So let's actually watch the trailer. I'm going to leave the sound off because I'm going to be talking over it anyway. What I will say, the one thing I liked about what I saw in this trailer was not anything I saw. It was the music. Akira Yamaoka is going for it on this particular remake, and it sounds fantastic. It was that will be worth it to me to get, I guess, a brand new remake soundtrack by Yamaoka. Oh, well, I'm just gonna kind of let the rest of this finish up. But I think the thing that's very clear is the camera angle and the wish I was Resident Evilness of this trailer's vibe. This is trying so hard to capture that Resident Evil vibe in terms of the behind the back and the way the gunplay looks. And I don't think that's the right call. So let's talk about Silent Hill 2 for a little bit, shall we? Before we dissect the trailer. Silent Hill 2, in its original release, was about a man named James Sunderland who ends up at Silent Hill because he got a letter from his dead wife telling him to come to Silent Hill, the place where they had spent their early marriage together before Mary got sick, which led to her death. And James arrives and has the bathroom scene where he does this. And then enters Silent Hill proper, runs into a couple different people that are clearly experiencing trauma in their lives that have also been called to Silent Hill. And then suddenly gets attacked by a demonic creature that kind of looks like a body bag that walks and makes scraping noises as it crawls across the ground if you happen to knock it over or run into one that is crawling. Then the fog really kicks in, and you have to find your way to where your special place with Mary was. And as you do so, you come across a large, menacing figure called Pyramid Head in the localization, or Red Pyramid Thing in Japanese. And it is a very sexualized creature. Very, very, I would almost say, domineering and frightening in its confidence and misogyny towards very feminized enemies that exist in this Silent Hill. So as you go through the game, you keep running into a couple of those supporting characters, and you keep wandering around and bumping into Pyramid Head, but eventually you bump into Maria, who is the spitting image of your dead wife, Mary, except with a wild side. She's got leopard print and short skirt and tattoos and works at a strip club. And she becomes kind of like an Ashley in a sense. She is there without any means of really defending herself, and James has to, quote unquote, protect her when they're together. But they get separated a few times, and a couple of those separations involve what appears to be her death, but she then reappears. So, what's going on is that James killed his wife because he was sexually frustrated that she was physically ill and incapable of being the wife that he had envisioned her to be. It's very, very psychological. It's extremely, extremely uncomfortable playing Silent Hill 2, especially when you know what's happening. But It is a masterwork of game narrative and a technical showcase for the PS2 back in the day. It was one of the best looking PS2 games, and one of the reasons they were able to make it look as good as it did in the early PS2 days is the fog was so prevalent that it allowed them to put more processing power into the models, which carried into Silent Hill 3 and eventually for The Room as well. James is a weak man who is incapable of really being, I think, that ideal quote-unquote man in the context of this game. He smothers his wife when she is incapable of defending herself in an absolute act of cowardice. And that is the repressed state that James is living in. He has refused to accept that he is the one that did this to his wife and has been living in denial. And being at Silent Hill is basically his reckoning with that decision and accepting that decision, whatever that might bring. And it is a very, very, very powerful game in that context. James is not combat ready. James is a normal civilian and, as I said, kind of a coward and weak. That's kind of what his persona is all about. So when he fights, it's very haggard, it's very strained, it's very strenuous on him. He gets exhausted very easily. He feels very, very timid and easily intimidated. There's a scene where he just decides to shoot his entire clip of bullets at Pyramid Head at one point in the hopes that it will do something. But if you watch the animation of him actually shooting, he's not really looking at what he's doing. He's just blindly shooting in the hopes that he hits it. That's the kind of man James is, and that's portrayed in every aspect of him in the original game. I'm not going to really comment on his voice acting because the original voice actor turned out to be a very nasty person. When we look at the remake, when we look at how Konami and Bloober Team are taking Silent Hill 2 in the direction that we saw in that trailer, that's so opposite of what Team Silent originally intended that it's frustrating for me to watch. The emphasis on combat is disappointing, to put it mildly. That is not what James was ever about. The fact that this trailer is emphasizing how much they are working on the combat element has me very distressed about how they're considering other elements of the game. Because that trailer was 1 minute and 30 seconds, and 1 minute of it was on combat. Combat has been a secondary function in Silent Hill from 1 through 4. I can't say anything about the games that were not made by Team Silent, so I am not going to reflect on those. That has never been the main focal point of a Silent Hill game. The atmosphere, the mood, the narrative, the characters, the interactions between those things, that is the essence of Silent Hill. The gameplay is the mechanics that get you through the narrative, have you meeting those characters together and exploring the atmosphere. The combat is there because you do have to occasionally fight your demons. But if you're talking about Silent Hill 2, James's demons are so deep and so diabolical that he is constantly apprehensive about that very prospect of fighting a demon, because he has sunk so deep inside himself to repress killing his wife that he is convinced that she is alive writing him a letter. This is not a man that would suddenly be comfortable fighting. And a gameplay engine that puts combat above other elements of the package is missing the point of Silent Hill 2. I didn't have any faith in Bloober Team when they were announced as the initial developer for Silent Hill 2 Remake. I have heard pretty despicable things about what takes place in some of their other games, especially the Medium. And while Konami and Bloober have both said, we're not messing with the story, we're not messing with the psychology, you are when you change the emphasis of the game from exploration to combat. Silent Hill 2 is an exploration game. It is not a combat game. It is not Resident Evil, which has always put a little bit of emphasis on combat, but especially in the early classic games before Resident Evil 4, combat was clunky, just like it is in Silent Hill. It was with Resident Evil 4 that they changed the entire persona, in a sense, of Resident Evil to make it more action-based by moving the camera behind Leon, who is a trained Secret Service agent, by the way, to emphasize his capabilities as a combatant. James is a civilian. He is a pathetic man who is not combat trained. And seeing this trailer go on for way too many seconds on him shooting nurses and mannequins loses every sensual fiber of the Silent Hill 2 legacy. And it's troubling that that's what Konami's taking away from Silent Hill, is that it needs to be like Resident Evil. That's not what Silent Hill was originally intended for. That's it. It's just not that type of game. It never has been. At least the original ones by Team Silent. Silent Hill 2, 3, The Room. Combat is secondary or even tertiary in some respects. The point of Silent Hill 2, which Bloober Team doesn't seem to understand, is that we are trying to comprehend what's repressed inside of a cowardly man who murdered his wife because she wasn't sexually fulfilling him. That's Silent Hill 2 in a nutshell, and we're not getting that James in this remake. I don't have to hear him talk. I don't have to see a line of dialogue. A combat prepped James Sunderland is not hitting the mark for that character. He's not that character that we see in Remake. He's not that person. Never has been that person. Cannot be that person. If we go off of what the PS2 game presented. And that's why I've not really talked about Silent Hill 2 Remake. Is because I've been secretly afraid that Bloober Team was going to mess it up. And this trailer is only furthering my belief that they are. And I love Silent Hill 1 through 3. 2 and 3 are on my top 111. Silent Hill 2 is a menacing game, giving you a glimpse inside of a man who made decisions that are abhorrent and despicable. and you realize the depth of how much a person can hide within themselves psychologically to believe that a dead person can write a letter. That's Silent Hill 2. Not what Bloober Team is making. I wish I could be more excited. I wish I could be enthused, but I can't. And the franchise as a whole, since Konami's been reviving it, it's been kind of not great. Ascension is a train wreck, full of controversy. They released a short game for free yesterday. I've heard some pretty mixed things about it, that it doesn't really stick the landing, so to speak, and it's kind of superficial in how it handles its subject matter, which is unfortunate. We have the Annapurna game, which could be interesting. I don't know a whole lot about that because I haven't talked about it since 2022. Silent Hill F is by Neobards, and that could be good, but I don't know. If I'm supposed to gauge quality control based on what I have seen since that Silent Hill presentation, is that 2 is falling way far away from what a proper remake should be doing, and that Ascension really indicates Konami's disconnect from Team Silent's intentions. And the short game that they released yesterday seems to be kind of stuck in the middle, where it feels like it's trying to be PT in a way, but find its own voice. It doesn't quite stick the landing because it doesn't really. It's like it exists is kind of the vibe I've been getting from what I've read about it. It exists, but existing is what Silent Hill's been kind of stuck with since The Room. It's a series that kicks out games that aren't good in comparison to the original 4. Some would argue that Shattered Memories is also up there in that good category. I don't care for it. I don't like it. But I'll give that concession that is the 5th good Silent Hill game. I don't like The Room either, but that's neither here nor there. But this just, it feels like, what is it called? The Quiet Memory or something. I forget what the new one's called. Is missing what makes Silent Hill work. It's trying to do the psychological thing. It's trying to get in here. It's trying to understand it, but it doesn't land. It doesn't get it. And Silent Hill 2, based on what we've seen in those 2 trailers, it doesn't get it even worse. Bloober Team's not doing what needs to be done with a proper Silent Hill 2 remake. And it's sad. It's really sad. And that game's going to come out. And I have a feeling that people are going to appreciate the fact that they made it like Resident Evil. And I'm going to just sit here and be upset that Konami gave such an important legacy to a team that couldn't get it. And everything I see just seems to prove me right. But we'll find out. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am totally wrong, and we can have a gun-toting James Sunderland shooting nurses like nobody's business, and it'll all make sense. No, I don't think that will happen, but I could be wrong. Thank you for listening to me rant for about 20 minutes. I hope I'm wrong. I do. I really want Silent Hill 2 to be something special with a remake, but I just don't think this is the team to do it. And I hate to be Debbie Downer about it, but I really feel like the moment Konami gave those keys to Bloober Team was when that project was doomed to fail. Since this is going up Sunday, we're going to skip the RE Separate Ways episode 2, but we will get started on 2 and 3, I think. I think those are both in the village for the following weekend. That's working out with my schedule at the moment. So I will say goodbye, finally. Take care.